About 5,200 rural women across the 44 local government areas of Kano State have received startup capitals to support their businesses. The Kano State governor, while handing the sum of 50,000 naira to each of the beneficiaries at the Coronation Hall of the government house in the state capital, says that his administration will continue to prioritize the empowerment of women at all levels. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
A routine now becoming more common within Kano State. It's also a show of delight and gratitude for many of these women expected beneficiaries of the state government business support scheme. Top government officials in attendance say that the role of women in nation building cannot be overemphasized. Our mission in the Konkosia movement is to uplift everyone to become equal in the society. Everyone is beyond poverty. Everyone can be governor, everyone can be president, everyone can be council chairman. The Kano State government says that the intervention is part of the government's strategy to boost small and medium-scale enterprises in the state.
We, as a government, reasoned that you stand a higher chance of creating wealth in our society when you are not indebted. We hope you will reciprocate our magnanimity by investing wisely and working hard to break out of the poverty cycle. As your government, whom you have entrusted with your popular mandate in 2023, I will be the happiest person to see that by next year, inshallah, most of you have become employers of labor in your locality through this program.
The state government says that the women will be clustered into cooperative societies so that they can be mentored and effectively trained to gain entrepreneurial skills. In Kano, for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
And that there is the report. Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for bringing us that update there in Kano State. We can see the video of the women being given 50,000 naira. You know, when we talk about entrepreneurship or Salge here in Nigeria, and of course the state governors, a number of times, I think it's a good look when we see them giving monies to these women to be able to help them with starting off their businesses and to be able to help them kickstart and maybe their entrepreneurial careers or just inject that into their business. However, what I do hope for is, you know, and not to be a party pooper, but what it is whilst we're giving them these monies, we must recognize that the climate right now isn't even as favorable. How long will these, you know, be able to last enough to sustain their businesses? I think that the ultimate good that we can do, whilst this is a great move, not to condemn it in any way, whilst it's great to give these business owners money to be able to fund or inject into their businesses, it's important that the ultimate goal is in the shortest time possible to be able to create an economy where businesses can thrive, because you can inject in thousands of money, you know, 50,000 today, 100,000 to these business people, and they won't see the returns, because what we have is an economy where they're having to pay ×3 for electricity, where they need to run their businesses on fuel because they don't have electricity, and fuel is over 900 naira. So I think the bigger picture is for state governments to also start to look for ways they can double up or increase their internally generated revenue so that they're not depending on a federal allocation monthly. And then for us as a country to, you know, our leaders to strategically look for ways to improve the business climate for business owners. Because if you give a business owner today, you give these women 50,000 naira today, they are grateful, they are thankful. We keep giving them these monies. After a while, what we'll just is just like pouring water into a basket, because the climate doesn't favor businesses being run successfully without all the hitches that the current climate provides for business owners in Nigeria. Yeah,
I mean, you would also just, you know, note that, you know, 50,000 naira, the value of 50,000 naira today, you know, may not be so much, you know, compared to what it was maybe in 2012 or 2010. But I want to believe
that's even too far. If you go back to 2020, it's not the same value.
Oh yeah. But I want to believe that the Kano State government has done its own assessment, and it knows exactly what, you know, level that, you know, these entrepreneurs are, you know, and, you know, sees that 50,000 naira might be beneficial to them So kudos, to the government in that regard. But it doesn't take away, any of the points that you've made, which is, that, the state government itself must be able to do what it can to elevate, the realities of, business owners and business entrepreneurs, in that state. If you look at Nigeria's history, Kano State, has always been, or used to be, I don't know if it's still on that level, but it was one of the states that was known for commerce, one of the highest, economically generating states, in the 60s and in 70s, that is maybe not where it is anymore. But, kudos to the government. What I would hope really is that, these are, the bottom feeders with regards to entrepreneurship in Kano State. So 50,000 naira, will help. Somehow, some way, in boosting their businesses, or at least, to some extent help them.
Right. For 5,200 women, I think, well done. So it's important to say well done. Yeah. At least they're doing something, they're not doing nothing. So well done to Kano State government. All right, we now move over to our major story.
Absolutely. All right. Now, when the Nigerians in Diaspora organization, NIDO, was established in 2001, it was to create a database of Nigerians living abroad. Now, since that database was launched in 2009, there's been a growing interest for Nigerians living in different parts of the world to have a say in the development and growth of the country, no matter where they are. One of such major requests is, from its members is the need to participate in elections. And we've spoken about that a couple of times. However, there's been an increased sensitization of the body recently since the chairperson, a former broadcast journalist and politician, Abike Dabiri-Erewa, took office of the commission.
Meanwhile, this week, investigative journalist David Hundeyin stirred a major controversy through a tweet he put out about the organization. The tweet reads, and I quote, "I hate to break it to you, but the entire NIDO organization was literally created by the Nigerian Secret Intelligence. It's not a diaspora organization at all. It's a state-backed organization created by the NIA under Obasanjo to monitor and control the size of economic and political influence wielded by the Nigerian diaspora in Nigeria. Half of the people in those NIDO WhatsApp groups with you are not using their real identities. They're trained NIA intelligence gathering agents, feds." Reacting to this tweet is a former foundation member of NIDO Netherlands since 2002 who said in her tweets, "I have just seen a shocking write-up by one David Hundeyin claiming that NIDO members are NIA agents. While freedom of speech is the prerogative of every citizen, but I expect any reasonable journalist to base his stories on facts and not on fallacy." She says, "I am a foundation member of NIDO Netherlands since 2002. A chapter was set up under Ambassador Tokunbo Awolowo Dosunmu without any single penny from the federal government of Nigeria. To now read David's Alice in Wonderland story that NIDO members are NIA's agents shows that journalism, she basically, it's a much longer tweet, but I think that we can show that much later." Now, the chairman, CEO of Nigerian in Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri-Erewa, took to social media to debunk the claims in a tweet that she responded to. Now, in this tweet, she says, "Though NIDO has its challenges, but this allegation is a lie from the pit of hell. I hope NIDO members will not just keep quiet." We feel that these allegations are very strong. They're very, very strong allegations. I would best to have David Hundeyin join us to clarify the things that he has said in that tweet. We have also tried reaching out to NIDO representative. Hopefully they get to join us in the course of the show, or hopefully before it ends. But for now, we have foreign affairs analyst Collins Nweke, who's joining us this morning. Good morning, Mr. Nweke. Thank you for joining us.
Very good morning to you, Olive. Thank you for having me. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year as well. We are also joined by David Hundeyin, I believe, who's also going to share. Okay, he'll be joining us shortly. But let's get your reaction, Mr. Nweke. You saw that tweet. You've seen the reactions that it's garnered across social media. Your first reaction when you saw the tweet, or the first thought that came to mind?
Thank you. I hardly took it seriously. The reason I hardly took it seriously was that I myself, has been an executive of NIDO. I mean, I was the chief executive secretary at the London headquarters. And I carried on to become board chairman of NIDO Europe. Now, I'm careful what I say because, I mean, I don't want to be the mouthpiece of, the government of Nigeria, but I can speak to NIDO, particularly in the period that I was at the helm of affairs. Now, there was absolutely nothing like, what Mr. Hundeyin has alleged. I mean, I actually feel odd having to, disclaim what he has said because, as a matter of fact, it was shocking, like Lola, mentioned. And so I don't know where Mr. Hundeyin got what, the information that he put out there on X. But I can say categorically that, in the time that I was, at the helm of affairs, there was absolutely nothing like that, no indication of government officials, making overtures to us, for espionage, purposes and all of that. And I can say even categorically now, after leaving office, I left office in 2014, that, I've been in close contact with, colleagues at this moment, and I'm aware from my interactions with them that nothing like that, has happened. So it is up to Hundeyin to, prove the allegation that he has made.
All right.
Luckily, I think David Hundeyin has just joined us, so we can have him also share, his views. I mean, you've always known to get your facts before, you have always been known, rather, to always get your facts before coming out, with a story or with, statements, of this magnitude. So quickly just share with us, David, good morning, and thanks for joining us. Quickly share with us, what exactly this claims are based upon. Do you have, did you carry out any work, that showed, or that, you're basing your claims on?
Well, first of all, even before, needing to do any investigation or anything like that, NIDO, by its own admission, you can literally go to NIDO's website and go to the About Us section. It states very clearly, very openly that it's an organization that was started as an initiative of President Olusegun Obasanjo in collaboration with Nigerian embassies around the world. So, by its own admission, it's a government organized institution. So, from there, it's, anybody who understands how the diplomatic system works in Nigeria or anywhere else in the world, really, it doesn't take much to put two and two together that if the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of a country and the embassies of that country put together something, obviously the premier foreign intelligence agency of that country will have its fingerprints all over it. I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that well, let me not say the vast majority, but a good part of the operations of Nigerian embassies around the world is done in collaboration with the National Intelligence Agency. So there's a very good chance, for example, that if you meet a Nigerian diplomat, be it a career, like a second secretary in an embassy or an ambassador or whatever, there's a very good chance that they come from the inner workings. The NIA, this is on public record. Everybody knows this. So personally, I'm actually a bit taken aback to see a sort of furious response from individuals linked to NIDO to what I said, which I thought was public knowledge, which I thought was everyone should know that if an organization was put together by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the embassies, then obviously the National Intelligence Agency has its fingerprints all over it. So, and then putting that aside, of course, I have had extensive contact with individuals who are linked to NIDO, who have worked with NIDO in the past, or who have been involved in the inner workings of this organization. And yes, I can say categorically that a very large part of the remit of this organization is intelligence gathering. It's basically monitoring the Nigerian diaspora to ensure that the amount of political or economic influence that is being wielded by Nigerians living outside of Nigeria, in Nigeria, doesn't exceed the parameters that the government deems to be in the interest, to be in Nigeria's national interest, which, by the way, is a perfectly normal and legitimate thing to do. Nigeria is not the only country that has such an organization set up for such a purpose. I think it stands to reason that if you're a country, especially a developing country, that has a very large diaspora population, and that diaspora population has the potential to wield a lot of influence back home, potentially influence the economy or fund political candidates, as for example we saw during the last election cycle, where the primary opposition candidates was largely funded. The campaign was largely funded through donations from the Nigerian diaspora, that sort of thing. I think it stands to reason that such an organization would obviously have as a central part of its remit monitoring where sort of these financial flows are coming from, where they're going, and monitoring who the principal players are in such political campaigns and whatnot. It stands to reason. So personally, I'm not sure why there is the need for all this denial. I personally don't even think there's anything wrong with the operational remit of NIDO. I think if you're a serious government, in the context that Nigeria exists in, you should have such an organization. Your foreign intelligence agency should know what your diaspora is up to. Your foreign intelligence agency should have extensive knowledge of the political and economic influence being wielded by your diaspora. Your foreign intelligence agency wouldn't be doing its job, in fact, if it wasn't creating a platform for the diaspora to converge in so that it could monitor such things. I think that's a normal thing that any the serious country would want to do. So I'm not really sure why people linked to NIDO have decided to go down this route of denial of something which is on their own website. I don't really understand why.
We'll have Mr. Collins Nweke speak to what all that you've said shortly. But just to reiterate, you had said in your tweet that half of the people in those NIDO WhatsApp groups with you are not using their real identities. They're trained NIA intelligence gathering agents, basically feds. And whilst you were speaking, you talked about having been in contact with a number of all these people who are allegedly a part of, who are meant to be a part of these organizations. Can you categorically say that you've spoken to these NIA agents and you know for sure that these people are NIA agents?
Yes, categorically I can say that. Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. Let's have Mr. Collins Nweke react to the statements. Does this, is this explanation enough for you? Do you think that this explanation, is valid?
Obviously, there is a misconception here. And let me clear that by giving a bit of background. Now, how did NIDO, Nigerians in Diaspora, come about? Now, in the interregnum between the election of, President Olusegun Obasanjo and taking office, he told the world, as you know, his main goal was actually, reinstating Nigeria's, status in the world, telling the world Nigeria is back as a democracy, the mean business, and, you are welcome to re-engage with Nigeria. Now, while he was doing that tour, he actually was surprised at both the number and the quality of Nigerians living outside Nigeria who had, gone on exile. Some of them went out, during the military misrule, to actually, study with the intention of coming back to Nigeria. But, they stayed on the basis of what was happening in Nigeria. And now when he approached a good number of them to say, listen, we're back now as a democracy. We need you back to help in the rebuilding process. He was surprised to note that, not many of them were ready to return back to Nigeria to accept his invitation for many reasons. Some already had families, some weren't sure of how far the democracy is going to stick and so on and so forth. So the thought then started emerging as to how to involve these Nigerians living outside Nigeria in the development of Nigeria from their foreign base, without necessarily relocating to Nigeria. Now, that was how the idea of setting up, NIDO came about. Now, there were quite a lot of consultative, meetings, what they called at the time, Millennial Consultative Assembly of the Diaspora, where, overwhelming majority of Nigerians supported the idea of setting up, a single organization that will be partner of government, in the developmental process of Nigeria. Now, one other thing that actually, gave some sort of oxygen to the idea was the fact that there were thousands, literally, of Nigerian organizations in Nigeria, but none of them could be considered an official spokesman or official organization recognized by government to represent the Nigerian diaspora. And the Nigeria at the time found a need to have such official engagement. So that was how NIDO came about. Now, it wasn't set up by government. Its setup was facilitated by government. And since then, as far as I'm aware, it has continued to function independent of government. Government has no hand in who leads it, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, one of the first tasks that NIDO actually undertook was agitating, advocating for the formation of a commission, that will take care of business on the home side. That was how Nigerians in Diaspora Commission actually, came to be. From, the bill, was signed into law, and it became an act. So since then, I want to, emphasize and re-emphasize that being in a position to know, I can affirm authoritatively that Nigerians in Diaspora Organization is an independent organization facilitated, in terms of its formation, by the government of Nigeria because of the need to have a single organization representing the interests of the Nigerians in diaspora. And of course, you have very succinctly, highlighted part of what NIDO has been doing then, advocating for, voting rights and, all sorts of other things, and then actually channeling developmental projects and initiatives to Nigeria and all of that. So that is what I can say. Now, it is for government to actually respond to some of the allegations that, Mr. Hundeyin has made against it. But from the NIDO side, I can say authoritatively that we are not aware of any such activity that Mr. Hundeyin has alleged.
Yeah, so just to clarify, you're saying the Nigerian government has no influence on NIDO's agenda. They do not tell NIDO what to do. They do not direct, for example, the 2025 agenda for NIDO. There's nothing like that the Nigerian government involves itself with.
Absolutely not. NIDO is an independent organization that has its independent leadership. Yes, of course, there is consultation with, government because government has an agency specifically earmarked to, take care of diaspora business. But NIDO also has, collaborations and consultations with the private sector, just as we do with, individuals of influence within Nigeria. So we consult with everybody. Our activities, are financed through members, donations, sponsorship, and so on and so forth. So no, there is absolutely no direction coming from, the government of Nigeria. NIDO remains an independent entity.
And just to add to, that, are you saying clearly that, they have the people there, you're not aware of feds being in NIDO?
Sorry, could you take that again? The
NIA intelligence gathering agents that David made reference to in his tweet. Are you saying that you're not aware of any of such persons in the organization, in NIDO?
If anybody would know, I should be one of it. Because like I said, I was the chief executive, executive secretary of NIDO Europe, with its headquarters in London, and then I carried on to become board chairman. So if anybody would know if such existed, I want to say in all humility that I should be one of such person. And I can tell you categorically that in all the times that, I was involved in the leadership of NIDO, both Europe and worldwide, there was absolutely nothing of such that I am personally aware. And I have close contact and continue to have close contact with colleagues, even those in the helm of affairs at this moment, and there is absolutely no indication that how things were in my time have actually changed now. NIDO remains independent without any influence of NIA or whatever.
All right, David, let's have you react to Mr. Nweke's statement.
I think you're muted, or someone is muted. David, you may want to check your sound.
Sorry about that.
All right, please.
So yeah, as I was saying, I don't think there's any need to speak a lot about this. I'm just going to read a segment from NIDO America's website, the About Us section of NIDO America's website, and I think enough said. So it reads, NIDO is a single representative body recognized by the federal government of Nigeria as the umbrella organization for Nigerians in the diaspora. The federal policy of Nigeria mandates all foreign missions overseas to support the development of the organization. So on its own website, it says that the federal policy of Nigeria is for all Nigerian foreign missions and embassies to work lock in step with NIDO. So, this unnecessary denial of what it states on your own website, that this is an institution which was founded by the government and which continues to work, hand in glove with the government. As I said, there's actually nothing wrong with that. Any serious country with a large diaspora, which supposedly has the ambitions that Nigeria supposedly has, would have such a setup. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I actually think, again, the intelligence community in Nigeria would not be doing its job if it didn't have such an organization. And, more to the point, it has been very open and very transparent, even on its own website, about its origin and how it continues to function. You can refer to what I did, the paragraph that I just read out. So, again, I don't know why NIDO felt the need to come out with this furious denial of what it states on its own website. Right?
David,
there's nothing wrong with what NIDO does. There's nothing wrong with the fact that the government of a country with a ceiling as high as Nigeria has and with a diaspora as large as Nigeria has would want to somehow, at the very least, keep track of what that diaspora is up to, both for positive reasons, to potentially tap into the potential of the diaspora for all the reasons that the co-panelists stated, which is good, and also for counterintelligence purposes, to find out potentially what threats and risks are being incubated in diaspora and knowing how to negate them before they start to become a problem back home. I think that's the nuts and bolts of what a domestic or foreign intelligence agency is supposed to do. And it states this very clearly on NIDO's website. So again, I don't really understand where the denial is coming from,
okay,
or what
David,
the need for the denial is.
If I may interject at this point, I think, is it safe to say that where we're seeing a disparity from both of you is the fact that maybe it's an interpretation of what's written on the website? Mr. Collins Nweke talks about having, been in leadership and had first-hand experience. You as well are interpreting from the website. Are we saying that, the issue here is based off the interpretation of the website, or can we say that you have some other verifiable evidence to further substantiate this? You did mention earlier that you've spoken to a number of the people in the group who are, intelligence agents. Is that the evidence that we're going by?
Again, you don't need to take my word for it. And I should also specify that if you are even the slightest bit familiar with how foreign intelligence works, it doesn't come out and announce itself. It doesn't come out and put a banner and say, yes, we are from NIA, we are from DIA, and this is our job here. We are here to monitor conversations. We're here to collect information so that we can write a report on so and so at the end of the day and submit it to the deputy ambassador or or whatever, they don't need to come out and state these things openly. Obviously, I have spoken to many of such characters, not just within NIDO. There are several, supposedly independent bodies in the Nigerian diaspora, which are obviously infiltrated by Nigerian foreign intelligence too, which again is a perfectly normal thing. Nigeria is not the only country that has such intelligence infrastructure. In fact, compared to other countries that do such things, Nigeria's involvement is actually even on the low side, right?
Yeah, so
this is a normal function of foreign intelligence. So again, I don't see why there's any need for it. And I wasn't making an accusation. I was merely making a statement of facts, and it wasn't a negative accusation like, oh, this is something terrible. It was simply a statement of fact.
I believe it's
a lot of the people within the NIDO system are working with Nigerian foreign intelligence. That is fact.
Yeah, I believe it's it's an understanding of what the implication is, or a misunderstanding rather of what the implication is. For you, David, you're saying there's nothing absolutely wrong with it. It's not new. It happens in many countries across the world. That is standard operating procedure. And for Collins Wake and the rest of the team in NIDO, they might interpret it as a strong allegation of espionage on Nigerians living in diaspora. So maybe that's where there is a clash in the conversation that we're having. But we're out of time. David Hundeyin, thank you very much for joining us and speaking with us this morning. Collins Wake, thanks as well for joining us and for your time this morning. Great to speak with both of you.
Thank you.